Hi, I'm the True Wise Gamer, giving off my vast knowledge so you may understand games a bit better. Honestly, when talking about older games, you usually always have some surprise when you see a game a part of a series that you do know of having this game and no one really honestly talking about it. Usually for fun, and I say this for fun because I'm a weirdo, try to look up games that no one's ever heard of, like for today's game, Onimusha Tactics. For those who are not in the know, and I say this because a lot of people still don't know these games, I mean hell, the last time we got an Onimusha game was like 2 years ago with a remaster of the first game and nothing else for some reason. Don't ask me, it's weird. Onimusha takes place during the time frame of the Sengoku period, featuring one of my favorite historical people of all time, Oda Nobunaga. With the amount of stories this guy gets, this one is a little less surprising, as sometimes he was considered a demon. In this game, he is actually a demon, called a Genma. Genmas are usually monsters in this series that will attack people and just want to cause havoc, but they were usually defeated by something called the Oni. These guys were basically people who would just stop the Genma from doing stuff. A warrior who are chosen by them are also called Onimusha, thus the title. And that's pretty much Onimusha in a nutshell, mostly. The games are pretty good from what I've been told, and I mean, like, I played Onimusha Warlord, and it's pretty good, so I recommend the series if you can. But we're not talking about those games, we're talking about tactics today. This game was made during around the time the second game was coming out, if I'm correct, though I would have loved to actually know more than that, but in any case, let's begin talking about Onimusha Tactics. The game begins with the explanation of what the Genma are and what the Onimusha are. Yeah, sorry about that, but it's like part of the series, so it's like gonna be rehashed a lot. Though for real, the game begins with our main character, Onimaru, very subtle and on the nose, if I might add, trying to head back to his home, the Iga village of ninjas. Yes, he's a ninja. Believe it. On his way back, he actually found some Genma trying to attack its village, but he quickly thwarts them with the help of his master, who gives him the Oni Gauntlet. The Oni Gauntlet is one of the only weapons that can help defeat the Genma, since they can just be reborn, and actually collects their souls so that one could use them for later, and I'll explain what you can use their souls for later. His master then pretty much spells out that Onimaru has to defeat Nobunaga, or else the world will end in hell or some jibber jabber like that. And on his journey, he'll find people to help him defeat Genma on the way, while also trying to find jewels that will help break down the barrier that keeping everyone away from Nobunaga. And even then, you already know what's gonna happen anyway. Nobunaga gets defeated and the day is saved. That's pretty much the story in a nutshell, if anything. I would say there is more, but there's really not. I would like to state that it's not a bad story, it's just a very generic story. It doesn't really have anything that really makes it unique. And being, while generic, yes, is not a real big problem for me. I think what really hurts it for me the most was that nothing really happened, if that makes sense. Things happened, but none of it really ever mattered in the long run. Like, meaning this guy doesn't matter at all. In fact, a lot of the characters after their introduction are just kind of put to the sideline for a long while, and are never mentioned much. The only time the characters actually ever took point was when they were involved with the Jewel Quest, and only then. Anytime else, nope. Even when they're given main focus, they're not really that special. They just are. I mean, for God's sakes, when you make a robot not interesting, you've done something wrong. The best way to describe this game is that it's vacuous, something to just fill the time in, nothing else. And now with the story out of the way, we can just talk about the gameplay, and it's alright. Like any other tactics games out there, you got your turns, you got your moves, you got your whatnot. So let's go into what makes this one different than other ones. In this one, you only have 5 classes, and I say 5 classes as though there are only those, but it's kind of done. But I just kind of grouped characters together in the last one, but I'll talk about that in a moment. In this game, there are only like 5 weapons you're allowed to use. Well, technically 5, but I'll get to that in a moment. You have swords, axe, spears, long-range weapons, though it's bows and guns, and only one character actually uses guns for some reason, so I just categorize them together. And ninjas. Why ninjas get their own group? Because they're fucking ninjas. Though honestly, ninjas are kinda useless. They don't deal enough damage just to be anywhere near useful. Sure, they got magic attacks, but I'll get to that in a moment. Honestly, the most useful units I had were long-range units and the swordsmen, since they can get upgrades and or have the most amount of weapons to them, mostly. Not to call those classes bad, they were just less proficient, if anything. Though I think that's mostly due to because there weren't a lot of characters who were good at them, or at least useful. Like Enki. Yeah, he was strong and he did a lot of damage, but he was never ever able to reach half the damage sometimes of some sword character. Or characters like Karemaru, who didn't even have enough move spaces so that he could reach there. Though ironically, they were replaced by characters who were even worse than them. Actually, speaking of replacing characters, I need to mention something right now. All the time, always, replace the characters who you think are useless. Mostly. Because every time the game introduces a new character, you pretty much want to use them most times than not, since they are legit better than the characters you already have, most times. And even when they're not, they're actually still better than the units you're already using, since they will grow to be better characters. Hell, I call one of the characters you get later to be outright broken, that being Akechi. Yeah, this guy is busted. I mean, for God's sakes, look at how much damage he can deal. The hell? And later on, he gets an ability that just makes him even more powerful as he can just buff everyone. In a way, he sort of trivializes most fights after he comes up. And we're near the tail end of the game. Well, I say mostly until we talk about the bullshit enemies. For some reason, some enemies deal way out of proportion damage compared to the other enemies on the field. The best answer I have ever gotten for myself was that they ignore your defense stat. For some reason. And I mean hell, at least make some stages near nigh impossible to do. Like the first one you'll have to deal with these fuckers. It's more likely you'll die trying to get to them than actually trying to kill them. Because if they weren't in the game, I would call this game a far better experience. And I do think it's still good, I just wanted to get a lot of the bullshit out of the way. Let's be positive here and talk about the graphics, which I really do enjoy. They have this kind of look that kind of has that same distinction of Final Fantasy Tactics Advance for some reason, even though they were in development at the same time. Either or, they do look nice. I really do like it. Except the portraits, they just feel out of place here. I don't know why. They just don't mesh with the style of the game for some reason. That's the best way I can put it to someone. The music, while not the greatest, is still very decent, and I would recommend listening to it if you can. It really is nice. Now, I would only talk about this now since I didn't bring it up, but the tactics of the games are still fine. It's really good, but I have my own real big issue with it. Well, I say biggest problem, but I don't consider it a problem, and one could consider it a problem. That being the difficulty. Yeah, I know. After I mentioned the bullshit enemies, you think this game would be a little more harder, but no. Only when they show up does it actually get any hard, and only bullshit hard. I was actually honestly surprised that the difficulty didn't really increase that much. If anything, it kinda went down. When I do reviews, I try to actually look up other reviews after I'm done taking my own thoughts and look at other people's thoughts. I do this mostly because it helps me categorize my thoughts into a more concise manner, and see what I got wrong and what I got right, or something in the middle. From all the reviews I gathered, well, technically the one on YouTube, but hey, they basically all agreed that this is very much a beginner's tactics game. Very beginner tactics game. Though, what could lead us to believe that? Well, simply put, there are ways to really mitigate the challenge. Here's where I mention where all the souls from the Genma come into play. See, the Genma can be used for not only their souls, but also stones they have. These stones allow for crafting, and pretty much they're better weapons than the weapons you can find on the side. These weapons and armor are better by every metric. Sure, you won't have that much at first, but later on you'll have so much stuff to get that you'll pretty much have everyone equipped with the best stuff. And you can even upgrade those items more with your souls. Yeah, you use the souls to upgrade items, and pretty much that makes them all the more better. And you don't even make only weapons and armor, you can also make healing items, thus meaning the scale is kinda tipped in your favor way too much, and it gets even further by another place. After a bit, you unlock the Phantom Realm. This is where you can actually grind for souls and gems. Meaning, quite essentially, you have an unlimited supply, thus meaning any challenge that comes up to you, not even much of a challenge to begin with. I would like to stress that this is not entirely a bad thing. If that's what the game was going for, then it succeeded. If it wasn't, then I'll have to ask why did it do this. Though anyway, might as well still praise the crafting system. It's very good. I mean, like, I don't really hate it. I mean, I used it more than other crafting systems in other games, I might add. But at the end of the day, that's pretty much it. There's not that much left to talk about, other than just conclusions. Hi, future me here. I forgot to actually mention this since I didn't notice it until I was finally editing this. But I forgot to mention the Ishin mechanic. The Ishin mechanic is basically like a counter mechanic that only kind of works if you have another opponent attack you and only attack you. Thus meaning it kind of has to kind of play off this idea that your opponent is just going to attack you with no special moves, and I just mean a full-on attack. And you can only do this with characters who can use a sword, spear, or an axe. I'm not particularly sure why, but at the end of the day, this game's alright. Go ahead and play it. I recommend it if you're an Onimusha fan. If you're not, go ahead and try it. If you like it, good for you. If you didn't, I wouldn't be surprised, but hey. Next time, we're doing Zone of the Enders, Fist of Mars. The one game I did not know is actually existing.